You're in for a fun debate. Today we're talking about the recent attempt to cancel Independence Day celebrations on the 4th of July and celebrate on Juneteenth, which marks the end of slavery in the US. That was the point of the debate on the Piers Morgan show, where a woke lawyer was going on tangents and twisting the words of the panelists to push her victimhood narrative, but Douglas Murray and Piers Morgan dismantled arguments and proved how absurd they were. But before I delve deeper into it, just watch this clip.
Douglas, let me start with you. You read a great piece this week for The Telegraph about this weird trend. I agree with you, I think it's weird, where we're being compelled to just apologise constantly for everything that happened in the past. Why are we doing this?
That's right. It's a very strange act of masochism, really, and an act of masochism carried out by people who don't seem to know anything. I mean, people talk about the British monarchy having to apologise for slavery. It was King George III who signed the Anti-Slavery Act into law in 1807 in London. All of this was addressed 200 years ago. And today, unfortunately, there's a kind of new type of malcontent, and usually also a huckster to boot, who just decides that none of this happened. Usually it's because they don't know it happened.
Douglas is absolutely correct here. He's not saying that racism didn't exist. He's pointing out that it was dealt with 2 centuries ago overall, and since then we've been making massive societal progress regarding racism. Legal frameworks in many countries have evolved to outlaw racial discrimination, such as civic rights laws. There has also been a significant cultural shift towards promoting diversity and inclusion, which contributed to a more equitable society compared to past eras where institutional racism was widespread. These changes offer individuals, regardless of race, the same opportunities to succeed. By the way, make sure to subscribe for more discussions like this. The radical left's heavy emphasis on identity politics has significantly contributed to the current issues surrounding race and societal division. By focusing intensely on identity markers such as race, gender, and sexual orientation, they establish a system of oppressors and oppressed, which perpetuates a victimhood mentality, and individuals from certain backgrounds are encouraged to see themselves primarily as victims of a systematic oppression. Thomas Sowell was correct when he said, quote, "Victim status is too powerful a temptation to relinquish voluntarily." Watch this next clip to see the results of this mentality in action.
Paula, your response to that?
I actually agree with Douglas about the fact that we don't know enough. He's absolutely right. We don't know enough, and it's important that we do. But part of the knowledge is also understanding the hurt and pain that were caused, not just about the good things. It's not just about the cherry picking. And wrongs are not about being masochistic. Saying sorry is not a bad thing. Saying sorry is actually a very empowering thing to do.
Why does it matter that a bunch of royals now get forced into issuing grovelling apology? Who cares? How does it change anything?
You're talking about who's the apology for. Well, the apology is for me. The apology is for those who have suffered. The apology is for those who continue to struggle through colonialism and through slavery.
The sense of entitlement on Paula is beyond laughable. She's clearly an expert on creating logical fallacies that don't correlate with modern realities. What Paula's doing here is focusing solely on the enslavement practices of the past without acknowledgement of the significant struggles and victories achieved in the fight against racism, some of which have been ordered by the same royal families she's demanding apologies from. For instance, after the abolition of the slave trade by the British in 1807, the Empire enforced this abolition through its massive navy. The Royal Navy's West Africa Squadron was tasked to intercept ships carrying slaves from Africa to the Americas from 1808 to 1866. Historic records show that, and I quote, "At its peak in the 1840s, the 1850s British operations off the West African coast involved up to 36 vessels and more than 4,000 men, costing an estimated half of all naval spending, amounting to between 1% to 2% of British government expenditure. And nearly 200,000 African men, women, and children were released by the Navy." Douglas brilliantly points out the fallacies in Paula's arguments and leaves a smile of defeat on her face. Watch this next clip to see for yourself.
Douglas, the problem is we've forgotten how to be genuinely proud of our great countries, both America and the United Kingdom, 2 of the greatest countries in the world. It's almost like every day now, somebody somewhere, normally on the left, the woke left, is queuing up to find a reason to hate the countries and their histories.
Well, it's a kind of grievance competition. Your guest earlier just tried to engage in it. I don't know what hurt she believes she's had from slavery. All of this was addressed 2 centuries ago. Everything has consequences. All history has consequences and ramifications. Because everybody could do this. 1 million Europeans were stolen by North Africans over the course of decades of the North African Barbary pirate slave trade. Where would you end if you did that? The answer is you couldn't end, because nobody is alive who has actually suffered the hurt, and nobody is alive who did the wrong.
The reason why the woke left focuses on destroying national pride is because they're trying to change our societies and build a dystopian Big Brother type society instead. The rise of critical race theory and deconstructionism in academia has also played a role, which encourages the critique and deconstruction of societal norms, values, and institutions. This in turn leads to cultivating skepticism of national narratives and symbols, and diminishes the sense of pride and unity traditionally derived from national identity. Additionally, the focus on identity politics leads to viewing the nation primarily as a source of oppression rather than a collective entity that shared values and goals. You see, when the narrative is heavily focused on the divisions and conflicts within society, it can be challenging to have a unified sense of national pride. Destroying national pride and focusing excessively on past grievances detracts from addressing more pressing issues such as illegal immigration, education, and the economy. There's also the point that demanding people apologize for actions committed by their ancestors creates another problem. It places responsibilities for historical injustices on individuals who neither participated in nor currently endorse these actions, which creates resentment between people rather than promoting reconciliation. Despite all of this, Paula tried to twist Douglas's words and kept insisting on everyone apologizing to her.
I am so sorry that Douglas is bored by the pain that has come from
That's not what he said.
Through slavery.
He didn't say. He didn't say. But what you're doing there, what you're doing, yeah. But hang on, Paula. Paula, you're being very disingenuous. That's not what he said.
I am.
And viewers aren't stupid. They know exactly what he said. He's not saying he's bored by the pain. He's saying, and I think it's a perfectly valid point, the pain that people who are alive today are claiming they're suffering for what happened 200 or 300 years is not a real pain.
I can say to you that I don't think that apologising is a bad thing. I think that apologising for a wrong is a good thing. I think that the Dutch royal family have done a fantastic thing in acknowledging what has gone wrong
I hear you, but
society.
I honestly think it'll make no difference.
Piers is correct here. It will make no difference at all. Modern monarchs hold no power and their roles have been reduced to ceremonial positions. Apologies for historical injustices are primarily symbolic, as in they acknowledge past wrongs and provide a form of moral and emotional closure, but at the end of the day, words are just words, and most of the time they're not genuine. These woke leftists should instead focus on the actions taken in combating racism. For example, if anyone were to utter racist remarks in our modern societies, they would immediately face severe consequences. Public shaming, professional repercussions, and social isolation are common responses to racist behavior that we've seen before. This societal tolerance towards racism proves that there is a significant cultural shift towards promoting equality and justice, regardless of one's race. While acknowledging and learning from history is important, dwelling on it only creates division. I think we should move on from such issues because focusing excessively on past grievances hurts social progress and unity, because moving forward allows us to heal and work towards a better future for all, ensuring that history's lessons lead to constructive, lasting change.